Hey guys, King of Charmander here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you the top 10 Pokemon for the Great League tournament coming up for the Pokemon Go Championship Series. So Great League is going to be the format for Pokemon Go Worlds and Regionals. And this is going to, I've heard that it's going to be a Show 6 format, very much like Sylph. But, to be honest with you, there isn't much of a difference between Show 6 and Pick 3. If you've been playing Go Battle League a lot, you probably are prepared for a bazillion team combinations. You probably know your leads, you probably know your safe switches, and you probably already know your closers. If you're confident in registering for this tournament and coming out with the W's, and possibly getting one of those top spots so you can get an invite to Worlds, this is the guide and the paper, well, not the paper, the video. This is technically a paper because, you know, it's just like a spreadsheet. But this is the guide for you, and a lot of these are very recognizable. However, yeah, it's going to be Open Great League. And what I don't like about it is basically there's no bans. There's no bans, first of all, and second of all, XLs are allowed. So things like Sableye XL, Lickitung XL, etc. are going to be, and Medicham XL is probably the biggest one, that's going to be available and allowed in Open Great League for Regionals and Worlds. So I'm going to analyze the top 10 Pokemon here. I'm going to give you a hint of what it is and what the common teammates are for it. So we're going to analyze top 10, and hopefully it'll give you a good idea what to run for Worlds. But if you're watching my video, you probably already know what to run in a sense because of the fact that you've been playing Go Battle League for so long. In the Show 6 format, you basically pick a bunch of Pokemon from the Open Great League meta or any other picks that you would like that could possibly do well. I have a few that I have an idea for my team coming up for Regionals and for Worlds, so that's my plan. But anyways, as you see here, this is going to be a top 10 list. So I'm going to show you the list and we're going to go back and forth and compare the top 10, and you should recognize a lot of these Pokemon, especially if you are a former legend or if you play Go Battle League, Open Great League a lot. And before we get started, my mental health tip for the day is going to be believe in yourself. I know I say that all the time, but also believe in yourself. Yes, Regionals and Worlds, you're going to face some of the best players in the world, but you know what? Hey, if you're going to fight, you might as well go down swinging. And that's actually a very good quote, you know, going down swinging, because the thing about it is, when you go out here, give it everything you got, give it your best. I've done multiple Sylph tournaments. I've done multiple online tournaments on Sylph. I literally swept my first tournament in Sylph in a week, and that's when I knew I was going to be good at PvP. I went in there, no, I literally had, I had no idea what shield energy management or anything was, and I literally beat former regional players in this one tournament I went at, and I swept the tournament, and I took the W. I comboed, I did a lot of crazy things. I think I still have footage of those battles, so then I'm going to put those for a battle later on. Kind of like a journey of who King of Charmander is in, like my journey of Pokemon Go PvP. But there's a lot of I know you get really anxious, especially like when you're like, oh my gosh, you know, like for those of you that have never done live tournaments before, it's a great atmosphere. Do your best, go out there, have some fun, in all honesty. Yeah, you're in here to win a chip, to win a title, to win an Invitational Worlds, or just even win the regional championship, but honestly, go out there, go have some fun, go meet your friends, and go out there and compete. If you don't do great, guess what? There's always next year. Live to fight another day and go down swinging. That's my mental health tip of the day. Because if you're going to do something, and this is what we do in therapy as well, fear. Fear, in order to get over your fears, you have to face your fears. And then once you face your fears, you start getting less afraid of a lot of other things. So, don't be afraid. I know it's going to be anxious. Perform, do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up. Train, practice, and give it everything you've got for you're going to compete in regionals and for Open Great League in the future, because you're still going to probably play, you're likely going to play Go Battle League after this, even after regionals, to prepare for next year. So give it everything you got this year, do everything in your power, because if you plan on becoming a pro and becoming part of an esports team, definitely give it everything you've got so you get noticed and you get signed to a team. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, and for the first Pokemon, we got Galarian Stunfisk. This is honestly the best Pokemon you can have on your squad that's not an XL in my opinion. That or Azu, but this is definitely number one. Galarian Stunfisk released in Season 2, and before it even came out, I broke it into the top 3 teams on PvPoke at the time for Season 2, because I already knew Shiftry, Deoxys Defense, and G-Fisk, I had Registeel in this place, was going to be a monstrous combination. And lo and behold, I literally tied it for the big meta team of Season 2. and it took me to Legend / rank 10 at the time. But Galarian Stunfisk is really freaking strong. This is statistically, it is the most powerful Pokemon in Open Great League as far as you could put on your team. It takes out it has Earthquake, it has Rock Slide. Earthquake ground types has the greatest coverage in the game as far as typing goes. It has Rock Slide, which covers the flyers, takes out the ice types in Walrein, even against things like Trevanent, etc. Combined with Mudshot, fast charging, a great nuke move, and just a great coverage against the overall meta. Even if you lose hard, for example, like against Azumarill, you can still Earthquake, do chip damage, and set up a lot of win conditions. It's very powerful. The only con about it is right here is its traits. Low fast move pressure. But literally in all positions, lead, switch, or closer, G-Fisk is a top mon. Especially for the lead and the switch. Even in the closing scenario, if you lock G-Fisk onto a flyer, you're almost guaranteed to win. In many scenarios. Unless like against a flyer, unless it has like shield advantage, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. Galarian Stunfisk has been in existence for you and me for many, many, many seasons, and it's good for good reason. That way you probably already have it. Look at the resistances. Anything steel, it literally resists 10 types. And yeah, it's weak to fighting, fire, ground, and water, but you can literally nuke a lot of those fires at certain ranges. You can you could Rock Slide fire to oblivion. That's why having that Rock Slide coverage is great. Water types like Swampert still take heavy damage from Earthquake if you manage to land. So it's incredibly powerful and definitely one of the, in my opinion, like I said, it's probably the best non-XL mon that you can have on this team, on your team. So G-Fisk is definitely almost a must, and if you put it on any one of your teams, it will like literally shift your grade up more. More on team building later. Right now, we're just focusing on core mons that you probably should have if you want to compete in the regionals or worlds, because you're probably going to see these a lot in the tournament, like guaranteed. Alright, for the next one, we got Medicham. So for the last usage, you saw 54% of teams in factions, or as far as Open Great League, as far as PvP data for the tournament, half of the teams had G-Fisk in it. And other than G-Fisk, along with that, you also had Medicham XL at almost also at half the teams at 49.9%. Now for Medicham XL, it's good. Our Medicham XL is arguably the single most thing that absolutely destroys most of the meta as far as Open Great. With Ice Punch and with Psychic, it's such a powerhouse in so many ways. There's so much you can do with it. It's ridiculous. Especially for its key matchup against Azumarill. So in Medicham, you can actually beat Azumarill in the one shield, as you see here, with 2 Psychics. So as you see here, if you can get 2 Psychics through, you actually are able to beat Azumarill. Or if you have enough energy to go through, like enough of an energy lead, you can take out Azumarill in the one shield. So Medicham is nuts. Or if you have shield advantage, as you see here, you can eat a Play Rough. You can eat 1 Play Rough and you can double Psychic. So if you can land 2 Psychics on the Azumarill, it's GG's. So having that play against the Azumarill is what makes Medicham XL such a beast. Also, it's able to take out other fighters like Scrafty. It's always good to kill Bastiodon. The main matchup is probably G-Fisk. G-Fisk gets punched down by Medicham really, really hard. And of course, Umbreon as well. Umbreon also has like with Ice Punch, you can cover flyers. The keyword is can. And the funny part is with Medicham, you can actually beat Altaria in the 2 shield. So Altaria, this is a strategy I used a lot. Careful, it takes 1 turn to get through. So be sure you be very careful when you do this and make sure that you are yeah, I mean, they usually get 1 through, but if they get like 1 extra fast or 1 turn in, like you'll die. But I've been able to pull this off a lot, especially if they fire on the wrong interval. If you get that extra counter through when they fire Sky Attack, you can almost guarantee this 2 shield matchup. So again, another key matchup with Medicham, again, being able to beat Altaria in the 2 shield. Medicham XL is extremely powerful, very flexible, works as a lead or switch. Of course, it's terrible if you get locked into the things like Sableye or Deoxys defense, but you can still chunk away, farm down whatever you have in the back, and take it out. That's why you see Medicham XL in so many cups. And there's not really anything wrong, like anything bad with it. It's so versatile. It's versatile, it's good, and even for the Love Cup and for multiple other cups, Medicham XL is just a beast. Definitely something, if you want to have 1 XL on your team, this is one you're definitely going to want to consider other than the next pick we're going to talk about. Actually, not even the next pick we're talking about. You can substitute it. But again, if you had an XL on your team, this is definitely one that you really want. All right, in slot number 4, of course, we got, or slot 3 actually, we got Trevanent. So you saw more Trevanents than actual Sableyes. Trevanent's a lot more accessible, and Sableye XL is a bee's knees to get, or just Sableye in general. However, Trevanent is incredibly powerful in Open Great League. You probably have seen it everywhere at Open Great League when it first came out because it's just so good. Before Walrein came out, Trevanent basically annihilated the entire meta, and it still annihilates the meta overall. It's the #1 lead overall Open Great League right now. As you see, as a switch as a closer, it has really high potential. The reason being is because its typing is really great against a lot of things. With Grass, you take out Swamperts. With Ghost, you take out the Fighters. Shadow Claw is one of the best damaging best moves in the game overall. And, well, other than counter, but like it gives you 8 energy and plus you get stabbed with it. Also with C-Bomb, low energy for baits, and like I mentioned, absolutely destroys Swampert, and it has Shadow Ball, which does big damage. So Trevenant is an absolute destroyer and a beast. Now the reason why it's not super great also is because a lot of the dark types love getting locked into this thing. While Trevenant does have a strong matchup against Sableye in the one shield, as you see here, in the one shield you can take it out, you have to bait. So if Trevenant can't bait you with Seed Bomb, as you see, you can live a Shadow Ball with Sableye. So again, if you aren't able to bait, you die, because you can't straight Shadow Ball against a Sableye XL. So that's why Sableye is so beastly. Trevenant has a lot more access, and a Trevenant can also convincingly beat Azumarill pretty hard. So there are pros and cons. However, it's a lot more available than Sableye is, and more recent. But factually, it does really, really well. Grass, with the Hydro, with its ability to convincingly beat Azumarill, and even against Walrein, it's not that bad. So if you look in the Trevenant versus Walrein, it's not a super bad matchup. You can still come out. If you're able to see, you can possibly see bomb Walrein to death if you have enough energy. So just putting that out there. But yes, as you see against Azumarill, against Swampert, and again, you can beat Sableye in one shield, but you have to bait. You have to bait and then ball out. And of course, it has a great matchup against Stunfisk as well. More so than Sableye does, but as you see here, it's still a dicey matchup. 2-turn difference. So if they have enough of an energy lead, they can possibly take you out But in the 2 shield, very convincingly beat. As you see here, you can absolutely out-pressure G-Fisk straight Seed Bomb. So, but a straight Seed Bomb is really rough. You ideally want a Shadow Ball, but as you see here, with a 1-turn difference, or if you get a Shadow Claw through and you have enough of an energy lead, you can take out G-Fisk. So that's why Trev is so good. Our Sableye, it's number 2 for good reason, such versatility, etc. The only con is, again, dark types, but because it does so much damage, if you can Shadow Ball, it's really freaking good and definitely worth having on your team. If you don't, I don't know, personally, like, stats-wise, it's definitely a beast. So if you have one, definitely a lot more accessible than the other ghost I'm going to cover here, but yes, it's really good. So also, it's usually paired up in most teams. If you look at the actual pairings for it, you see a lot of Trevenant paired up with a lot of the other top mons. So Trev as well as G-Fisk definitely pair up with a bunch of different combinations. And for number 4, we got Azumarill. So Azumarill is still really freaking good. It's bulky, it's super meta, and the thing about it is it can still do heavy damage with enough of an energy lead, and it's so versatile. It beats a lot of the top mons in this. It beats a lot of top mons on this list. So along with that, it's super bulky, super viable, and it's still really good even after the preseason. As you see, you can use the level 41. So the level 41 at rank 1 is still really good. You will win against the level 40 beats level 50 by the virtue of CMP. So if they throw Azu into you as a safe switch and you have nothing to counter it, you could throw your level 40 Azu into them, match up energy, and because you win CMP, you will beat the level 50 Azu. Or usually whoever beats CMP in the even scenarios, it's who's gonna win. Azu is good for several reasons. It has Play Rough. With Play Rough, you can absolutely wipe the dark types as well as fighters. The problem is Azu can still lose against, remember I told you that about that Medicham matchup, you can still lose against fighters. You can also lose against Deoxys defense because if it carries Thunderbolt, Deoxys defense with counter and Thunderbolt is very deadly. And of course, you can also lose to other Azumarills. As you see here, the reason, remember the whole justification, everyone that's like, oh, level 50s beat 40s. No, not in this scenario. As you see, 50 beats 40 by the virtue of CMP. So, yes, non-XL versus Azumarill. So, again, still really good. Azu is a fantastic safe switch, arguably the one you see in the position the most. But, however, you could also be prone to getting locked into it. For example, I used Azu, locking an Azu onto Shiftry was I loved locking Azu into Shiftry because I can get a bazillion energy and just absolutely eviscerate your back row. But overall, there really is nothing wrong with Azu. It's extremely bulky, has a lot of defense, and like I mentioned, there's multiple ways you can come out of win cons, etc. And it's so versatile and powerful that it's still a top mon. Don't let these performance rankings fool you. It's top on for a reason. With Hydro Pump, you can take out G-Fisk. You can also play rough a lot of things to death, and it is very, very powerful in Open Great League. This is probably like the only problem with this with Azu is it's expensive. If you're thinking about competing in regionals, you probably already have an Azu. 40 or 50, it doesn't really matter. If you have it, you have it. If you like it, you like it. And if you like it, you can use it. Alright, next up we got Sableye. So Sableye kind of fell off the totem pole. In my opinion, it's still incredibly powerful. In the Open Great League top teams, you still had Sableye, Medicham, Registeel was one of the top teams, and for good reason. Sableye beats Trevanent, it also beats Medicham, and you can also beat Azumarill if you're able to return through shields. If you can return through shields, you can comfortably foul play down for the victory. The only con that you have is that you will get absolutely obliterated by Charmers, which is the same case with Trevanent because of the Weather Ball thing, but Sableye is bulky, Sableye is destructive, but it's very dangerous. Sableye is a monster and does really, really well. Having that dark and ghost type makes it incredibly unique. As you see here, mostly used as a switch. The big conundrum with G-Fisk or Sableye versus Azumarill is that basically what you can cover. As you see, Sableye convincingly beats a lot of fighters. How I can even beat Scrafty, even if though Scrafty has foul play, because if you can return through shields. It also can beat Shadow Nidoqueen and also convincingly can beat Galarian Stunfisk in the one shield. You can take out Azumarill. You can also return. It does big damage, and you can do a lot of plays with Sableye where you can farm down. And again, you also have that chance against Trevanent. Trevanent has to Shadow Ball you in order to come back with a W. However, it's so dynamic, basically like Azu. Nothing pretty much wrong. It's spammy, dynamic, a lot of shield pressure, does a lot of damage over time. And like I mentioned, the reason why you see Trevanent a lot is because Trevanent does cover the water type archetype a lot better than Sableye does. But Sableye isn't a bad idea. It's still here for a reason, and actually didn't overtake Trev, was still in top teams for a good reason. It's unique in a sense as you see what its pairings are. It pairs with it compared to everything else on the list. It's the highest ratio, the highest teammate ratio for Nidoqueen as well as Swampert. The Swampert's still going to be very good in this meta and can still absolutely obliterate your competition, especially with Hydro Cannon. But there are a lot of things that can take out Swampert now, particularly Trevanent. So if Swampert gets locked into Trevanent, even if you have Sludge Wave, it's pretty much bye-bye. And Trevanent does wall Swampert because unless you're holding Sludge, well, it does hold it. It does wall it except for Sludge Wave because Sludge Wave does neutral, but still. You don't get stabbed, so, and they get to Seed Bomb faster, so it's dangerous. But Sableye has fallen off. If you don't have Sableye, the option would be Trevanent. However, I'm leaning more towards Trevanent as well. As powerful as Sableye XL is, Trevanent just covers a lot more, and Shadow Ball just does so much damage. Yes, Return is a great move, and you can use it to take back switch against Azu, but Trevanent also has a more dominant matchup against Azu than Sableye would. You can also have a good matchup against Walrein if you're able to get those Seed Bombs off. So it's really up to you. And Trevanent, yeah, it's just what it is. Trev is overall a lot better with usage-wise. Not saying Sableye isn't bad. Sableye, with its pressure and with enough energy advantage, can possibly come out of the W. So just keeping that out there. It's still really freaking good. Alright, next up we got Walrein. Yes, big blubber, rubber, and fish. And Weather Ball. Well, not Weather Ball, Icicle Spear. But you know what? I would say Walrein is probably the best value you have right now. At 32%, Walrein is an absolute destroyer. Being with Earthquake, it's so good. like, as far as Walrein goes, Walrein can beat G-Fisk. It can also beat Trevanent. It can Trevanent. Altaria absolutely gets destroyed by it. Unless you're using Charmtails. Charmtails absolutely hates Walrein. Walrein also has a really great matchup against Nidoqueen, Swampert, Registeel because of Earthquake. Registeel, also things like Registeel and basically Venusaur. Basically anything that dies to ice, Walrein will reign supreme. And with Icicle Spear with the Body Slam clone, it's no surprise that it's this plus Sableye, Registeel, or Medicham, especially Sableye, is incredibly powerful and does really, really well. The reason why Sableye is paired more with Walrein than Trevenant is, even though the Walrein Trev core, with Sableye you can beat Walrein. So if you say switch, if you put Walrein Sableye will beat Trev Walrein. If you did the mirror, or like, yeah. So Walrein and Sableye both beat Trev. So that's why those two are paired together. You could do Walrein Trev as well, but if you have something that beats Swampert, why do you need Trevenant? Because Trevenant also beats Swampert. See what I mean? But yes, out of versatility, even though it's only at 32% and the last mon on my list so far, it's still really powerful and does really, really well. As you see with Walrein, number 5 on the list, number 7 as a Shadow. I would say there's no reason to do Shadow. Yes, if you look at the ratings, like, it doesn't really matter too much. And if you get locked into a fighter, unless you have a lot of energy, Hail Mary Earthquake is the way. But there is a difference between Shadow and the regular version. As you see, Shadow version can beat Skarmory in one shield more convincingly, while Walrein can beat Altaria. So just that extra bulk can actually matter in some instances. But Walrein is capable of beating Sableye. So again, and you beat Swampert, you also beat Azumarill with Earthquake. So it's really up to you. Actually, both versions will beat Azumarill. As you see here, 2 in 1 shield, Icicle Spear, Earthquake, Earthquake. So as long as you're able to double Earthquake, you can come out with a W. Or if you have chip damage, Earthquake does 66 damage, and you take out Azumarill. Versatile, powerful, great in all scenarios, and literally probably the fastest out of the top ones I've shown you as far as speed goes. And again, something with a Body Slam cone is always good, and it absolutely outpaces and destroys its competition. Walrein is definitely something you want to consider, especially since it just recently had its Community Day. And I'm blown away by its performance, so I'm really considering having it on my team as well. Alright, as far as the rest, I could quickly go over you. I only managed the top 5 because the top 5 is really the ones that are most going after. Skarmory is still really good. The only issue with Skarmory is basically G-Fisk. Yeah, Skarmory is good at Open Great League, but again, G-Fisk is always a threat, and even though Skarmory can beat G-Fisk using Brave Bird, it's still really, really rough. Along with G-Fisk, you also have Registeel and Skarmory. If you saw here, you're prone to get beat by Walrein, and you can still get balled out to death by Trevenant. So you can also beat Skarmory, like, I believe you could beat Skarmory with Medicham straight pup, I think, if you have Power Punch. So you can Power Punch up, like, Skarmory to death, and it's nuts in the 2-shield. It's freaking nuts at what it can do. Ninetales A9, Charm A9 is actually very interesting for this cup. But Alolan Ninetales, as you see here, Alolan Ninetales was also used a lot. But it's also, again, it's very, very interesting. A9 does well with Charm or with Powder Snow. So, like, it can kind of throw off your opponent in a Show 6 format. Because you're like, is that Charm or is it Powder Snow? So I'll have them thinking for a little bit. But A9 does really well because of Charming capability. And Ice and Fairy is also really, really nice. Beats out, the problem is with Ice and Fairy, you don't resist fighters, so you can possibly Psychic Alolan Ninetales to death, so that's the only issue. Also, like, Rock Slide hurts a lot against Ice types, which is why G-Fisk is over here at the top. G-Fisk beats both Skarmory and A9, but A9 with Weather Ball is still really good, so it's not something I would pick personally, but it's still out there. Altaria, still in teams. Very good, very versatile, very powerful. Also very, very bulky. The problem with Altaria is pretty much Steel types and Ice types. Steel types, Ice types, and if your opponent has no Ice, it actually can do really well, but also you can get prone to get locked into G-Fisk, which loves seeing Altaria. So just putting that out there. Swampert gonna Swampert. Swamp Scarm score is still very, very powerful, which is why you see it getting paired with Swampert. The Swamp Scarm core is very powerful because a lot of pressure and Skarmory can cover that grass weakness that freaking Swampert faces. But Hydro Cannon plus Mudshot is still the fastest thing in the game and still very, very powerful. Swampert can chunk away or do heavy damage. And it's an absolute beast and a destroyer in this cup, especially if your opponent's not carrying Trev. Swampert is a very, very safe option against your opponent's team. Again, if they're not carrying Trev or anything of that sort, or you could just use it to chunk away at your opponent's HP. Definitely something, and that's why it's the top community move on here as far as the starters go. The only one to make it on this list besides Venusaur, but Venusaur is dead last. Nidoqueen going Nidoqueen. Wouldn't recommend it though. Yes, it's good for the fact that it destroys fires and also takes out Azumarill. However, if you face any Walrein or Swampert, you die. And also, you can G-Fist can eat an Earth Power from a Nidoqueen. You have more pressure on Nidoqueen, unless it's the Shadow version, which you can one-shot, but yes. And also, Nidoqueen, if you happen to face a Confusion user, which there's no one on this list, it can get prone to Psycho Boosted to death, which is why Deoxys defense has value. Registeel with Zap Cannon and Flash and Focus Blast has made its way into this absolute destroyer mode. Registeel can absolutely destroy Azumarill, debuff your opponent to oblivion, 4 shields, and even though if it's resisted, Zap Cannon, unless it's a Swampert, will do heavy damage against almost anything unless it's resisted. Well, unless it's double resisted. If it's single resisted, you're going to have a great time, but if it's double resisted, ground types really like getting hit by Zap Cannon. But that instant debuff can possibly give you win conditions. Deoxys defense, Psycho Boost, Thunderbolt, Rock Slide. Versatile moveset, I personally love Psycho Boost to death. The only reason I don't like using Deoxys defense right now is because Trevenant and Sableye are very popular options. Other than that, Deoxys defense is still a top mon, able to rip its way through a lot of top teams, and like I mentioned, still extremely versatile, and Psycho Boost plays are incredibly skilled, and if you're good at it like I am, can come out with a win con. Really considering Deoxys defense, despite the fact you might see Sableye and Trev to oblivion, but I really like Deoxys defense, so we'll see. But again, because of the dark types, I'm really not leaning towards using it. Ironically, Scrafty is still really good. Scrafty does work against things like... Scrafty does work against any of the steel types, particularly G-Fisk. It can also, with Foul Play, it has a really strong matchup against Sableye. Just be careful, if they get a return through shields, Sableye can win back switch. But Scrafty slaps, Scrafty can do a lot of damage. The only issue with Scrafty is it loses to other fighters. So if you get Medicham or if you get locked into Deoxys defense, if Deoxys defense has shield, it could possibly just beat down Scrafty to death, which is why, again, being weak to fighters is not good. And yet, despite this, Umbreon has still made its presence. You can use Umbreon to lock into a Trevenant or to a Sableye and make it your worst nightmare. Umbreon is so incredibly bulky that if you do win the lead and you have Umbreon in the back, it does really good in a lot of scenarios. That bulk, Foul Play, and now you even have Psychic. So you have Last Resort for the mirror, but you can also have Psychic for things like Nidoqueen or Venusaur. If you get hit by a Psychic, it really sucks and does heavy damage. Still really good, still really thick. Again, really there for the purpose of getting locked into those Trevenants and against those Sableyes. Kind of the anti-save switch in a sense, and also does very well against Deoxys defense. So very, very powerful, very, very versatile. Despite the fact your worst nightmare is getting locked into basically either Alolan Ninetales, a Charmer, or a Azumarill. Lickitung XL. Really freaking good. Outside of getting locked into a fighter, Lickitung XL does work against a lot of the meta. The problem is not a lot of people have an XL, which is the biggest issue. In order for you to have Lickitung is amazing. It has so much bulk that it's almost unfair that's allowed in this league because it can do so much damage. Power Whip and Body Slam is very versatile, does a lot of chunk over time, and it's so freaking bulky, it's ridiculous. But the good thing is Medicham XL slaps the unholy crap out of Lickitung XL. Also for Lickitung XL, if you face a dark type, it really freaking sucks because you resist ghost types, which is why Umbreon is still a top mon on this list. But at the same time, when it comes to Sableye, it doesn't like you. And so along with, even though you resisted, the reason why is because Shadow Claw is resisted. So it's that anti-ghost and also kind of does really well against the fighters as well. You don't convincingly beat Medicham with Lickitung, but you can do enough damage to where you're going to force them to switch and come out with shield advantage, or you're just going to have to give it up. Talonflame going Talonflame. Talonflame, nothing in the meta really resists both of Talonflame's moves as far as like big meta goes, and it's extremely dangerous. If you get locked into a Swampert, that's your worst nightmare. However, generally Talonflame is able to threaten, well, Swampert as well as Azumarill, but you can still threaten Azumarill with Brave Bird. So again, save those shields, give it to Talonflame, and Talonflame can go to town. Not a surprise, it's in a lot of open Great League teams. And last but not least, we have Venusaur. Venusaur does work against a lot of the water archetype. It's basically there to destroy the water archetype, and with Frenzy Plant can still do heavy damage. The problem with Venusaur is Psychic types. Psychic types can give it a really hard time, as well as Psycho Boost, which I've done plenty of times, is Psycho Boost with the Deoxys defense and take out a Venusaur. Venusaur is still really good for this meta though. Frenzy Plant does heavy damage, and Sludge Bomb is very versatile against those fairies. However, keep in mind, if you see an A9, you might want to Frenzy Plant it instead of Sludge Bombing it. I've made that mistake many times. Frenzy Plant does more damage than Sludge Bomb does, just because Frenzy Plant is so OP and does so much heavy, like it does heavy work. And it's very strong, does a lot of damage, and it's still really good, but definitely less losers than a lot of other picks. Venusaur can do really well against things like G-Fist and as well as the fighters, as well as Azumarill. And it beats Sableye into 2-shield as well. That's where Trev kind of comes in, where Trev has a strong matchup against Venusaur just because you resist those Vine Whips. But because Frenzy Plant does so much damage, if you look at the sim and you do Venusaur versus what's it called? Venusaur versus Trevanent. So we do Venu versus Trevanent. If you look at the sim, Venusaur doesn't do a lot. However, one Frenzy Plant, that's Sludge Bomb. So Sludge Bomb does 74 damage. So you can get you could wipe out half of its HP. One singular Frenzy Plant, however, if you do Frenzy Plant, 58 damage. So you still do like a 30% of its damage, of its HP, even though it's resisted. So that's how nuts Frenzy Plant is. Still versatile, still very powerful, and can still really well. But, again, in comparison to a lot of the other picks here, Venusaur isn't as great as it looks on paper. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I hope this does help you guys out. The team building series will be coming out later. The reason I didn't do it earlier is because, yeah, so I'm going to, like, put that out sometimes. First, I'm going to put out the little Jungle Cup content that I've been putting out. And then near the weekend where Worlds will take place that's when I'll do it. So a little Jungle Cup, and then I'll be doing my top 5 teams as far as for the format. And now, those are my top teams, but I'm pretty sure a lot, like, based on this chart, it's going to have a lot of very similar charts, or just, like, you could literally throw 6 of these Pokemon together and you have a super meta team. That's literally it. And I can foresee a lot of people using a combination of all 6 of these Pokemon that you see on this chart to go out there. But if my advice to you, there's a lot of things out there, like the ones that I plan on like some of the Pokemon that I plan on using that do really well against the overall Great League Tournament meta. So if you have the anti-meta to the big meta, combine it with meta, bam, you get something good. But there's a lot of picks out there that do really well against an overall Denopsis. I mean, I'm the guy that used Typhlosion with Solar Beam to make rank 10/legend in rank 1. I know a bit of what I'm talking about because I've done it, and one of the few I've done it. So there are a lot of other picks that aren't on this list, like Obstagoon, etc., that can do very well in the Great League Great League Tournament format. So I will put those out later this week. But would you do me a huge favor? Please like and subscribe. It's totally free. And you can easily do that. You see all the box on the bottom right? You can easily subscribe from over there. I really appreciate. Also, please like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Y'all have been doing that lately, and you guys are absolutely goated. Because I really do appreciate it. Like, I see the comments, I'm like, you know, you guys are amazing. And then I always take that, like, I don't do it, like, immediately, or if I don't do it on the same day, I promise you I will go under your name, and then if you do something like that, I'll say, like, I appreciate you or something like that. And I do it every time. Because I do appreciate my community. Also, all of you that have seen you on Twitch. My schedule is Thursday is going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I'm going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, usually in the morning as far as PST goes. So look out for a more solid schedule. But, again, I will have that out. And for those of you I see on from Twitch to YouTube. I'm YouTube to Twitch. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitch if you want to see this crazy, if you want to see my crazy plays in action, or if you have any general questions or anything like that, I'm more than willing to help out over there. I do it all the time, and also my community is absolutely golden. I freaking appreciate you guys. Good luck in your Good luck in your Go Battle League sets. Good luck on you participating in regionals as well as worlds. Look out for that top 5-6 team to come out pretty soon this week before it actually goes out. And because Liverpool's coming out first, and then everyone else's is still a few weeks. So if you're not in Liverpool's, you still have plenty of time to prepare. Good luck in your Go Battle League sets. Good luck in your tournaments. Good luck in your progress. And I will see you guys on the next video.
That